Hello good folks on YouTube. Today I got another forgotten, obscure horror film from 1990 to talk about. The film in question is a low-budget horror anthology film, containing 3 short stories that has demonic ghost kids, zombie soldiers, and an insane serial killer. I am Torstein from Cinema Terror, and here is my review of Terrorgram. The premise of Terrorgram is that we focus on 3 different people that each have done others wrong in one way or another, and karma has had enough of it and decided to make an example out of all 3. This is done by each of them receiving a mysterious package by an equally mysterious delivery boy. What their package contains will seal their fate. The first segment has the dour name of Heroin Overdose, and that makes sense and becomes funny once you finish the story. It starts out at a movie set for a low-budget slasher film with an hilarious over-the-top killer. Seriously, give me a full-length movie with this monstrosity of a human being anytime. I was a bit sad when I saw that the story starts and we see that he was only a character in a film within the film. But he did end up making a glorious return later on in the segment, and that made me a very happy viewer. Oh, the story. So basically this is about a sleazy, male chauvinistic pig of a film director named Alan Smithee. Get it? Who does not have any respect for the women that he cast in his movies, or how they are portrayed on the screen. After storming off the set in anger, he settles in at his office to fill up his veins with drugs. After this, he is transferred into a world where the genders have switched power positions in the world. All the females he comes across treat him like shit, the exact way he has treated women all his life. After some strange, funny moments, Smithee starts to realize that he is trapped within his very own exploitation film scripts. He starts to believe that he is just dreaming and tries his best to wake up. But then something even more frightening happens and he finally gets his comeuppance.
Dickweed!
Now this was a fun segment with some hilarious moments to it. Overall, it did feel like it dragged on a bit too long, a complaint I will have on more than just this segment of the film, but it does take enough twists and turns for it to be enjoyable. Jerry Anderson is fun as the almost Gilbert Gottfried imitation of a sleazy exploitation filmmaker, and again, the story has this guy, so you know we're off to a good start on this anthology. Between the segments, there are some words of wisdom being delivered by none other than James Earl Jones. Not sure how they got him to do this, but props on them, as there is not many other people that I would rather listen to give a voiceover narration than Jones. I do think that you could have used that money to create something more visually pleasing though, as these pauses between the short stories did very little for me.
As you reap, so shall you sow. At any time, your past may become your present. We have borne witness to 3 stories of retribution.
The second story of Terrorgram is called Pandora. In this one we meet ambitious news reporter Angela, who has no qualms of pushing the limits and do whatever she can to get on top. On her way either to or from work, I can't really remember, she accidentally hits and kills a young child who was just out playing with his little Jack-in-the-Box. Instead of doing the right thing and call for help, she flees the scene to get back to her job. After finishing up her work for the day, which included reporting on the same accident that she had taken a part of, she heads back home and gets a package delivered at the door. In the package is the exact same Jack-in-the-Box that the child she ran over was playing with. While all 3 segments are nearly the same in the terms of quality and enjoyment, I do think that this one would be my favorite. The idea of how ruthless news reporters and media has to be, or way too often turn out to be, is something that are even more relevant today than back in 1990, and I think they handled the concept quite well in this, mixing up the seriousness of it with some cheesy, fun, monster action.
What's the matter, Angela? I look a little run down.
Angela is played by Linda Carroll Turner in her, like many other performers on Terrorgram, only credited role. The majority of acting in this film is not very good, but I must say that I thought Turner was a standout, even if she doesn't deliver anything that will blow you away. Like the first segment, this also does overstay its welcome a bit, but the good parts of it makes it easier to forgive its slow-moving pace. It does remind me a bit of the Hitchhiker episode from Creepshow 2, in that it starts with a car accident that ends deadly not only for the innocent part, and the makers of Terrorgram seems to be very genre-savvy, so I wouldn't be surprised if it took a bit of inspiration from that Creepshow story. So, after a quick new interlude with James Earl Jones talking about something, we get the third and final story of Terrorgram called Veterans Day. In this one we meet Eric Keller, played by J.T. Wallace. He is going through a rough divorce after abusing both his wife and children, and his egotistical behavior is not new to him, as he has abused his power to hurt others for years and years. When he was younger, he snitched on an anti-war student named Novotny, played by Michael Hartson. This caused Novotny to be forced to join the military in the middle of the Vietnam War, and he never made it back home. In present day on Veterans Day, Keller gets a journal delivered to him, which turns out to be Novotny's from his days at war. Keller soon gets transferred directly into the Vietnam War himself, and now he gets to experience everything that Novotny went through, all while Novotny's corpse is right there to make fun of the situation and try to get through to Keller and make him understand why he's put through this.
Bummer.
This segment reminds me a bit of the 1986 film House, in that a soldier from the Vietnam War comes back from death to haunt somebody, although this zombie soldier and the one in House has very different motives. The makeup effects are quite good, and while this is also a story that could quickly turn very dark, it stays upbeat by adding its own creative humor to it. Like the other stories though, it feels like it goes on for a bit too long, but it is still an enjoyable watch and a fun story to end this anthology on. Terrorgram is only 87 minutes long, and each segment gets around 25 minutes each, which feels a bit too much on each segment. I think I would have enjoyed this even more if they were able to cut out about 5 minutes from each story, and perhaps make room for a fourth one, although I'm sure that would be stretching the budget, as this is not a film with a lot of money behind it. If they didn't have enough to add an extra story to it, then perhaps they could have used the available running time to do something more creative with the wraparound parts. If they could get James Earl Jones to do the voiceover narration, then I'm sure they weren't far away from meeting his salary to just put some costume on him and make him a sort of crypt keeper type of character in between the short stories. Terrorgram is directed, produced and co-written by a guy named Stephen M. Kinsel. This was surprisingly the only film he did, and that kinda sucks. While this isn't a masterpiece or anything like that, there is clearly an attempt here to make something out of nothing, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was a big horror movie fan at the time either, as Terrorgram does feel like a low-budget version of things that came before it like Creepshow and The Twilight Zone. I like how he was able to make the stories connect on a thematic level, and the creative efforts in the screenplay makes it easier to look past the low production values that they had to work with. His voice comes through on Terrorgram, and it feels like it was written by a young guy with a bone to pick with certain elements of the so-called modern society. And you know we are talking about a filmmaker with a wicked sense of humor when he included an over-the-top, colorful character like this guy right here. Terrorgram is surprisingly solid. It does drag at parts, and the low production values does bring down its potential, but the effort put into this doesn't make it hard to ignore its more cheap parts and still enjoy it. The anthology film I think it has the most in common with is Creepshow 2, so if you are a fan of that, or anthologies in general, then I do think that this film is worth hunting down. Terrorgram was a nice surprise for me, and I'm going to give it a positive score of 3 out of 5. Has anyone else there experienced Terrorgram yet? And how about recommending me some more unknown anthology films? The comment section is wide open for your comments right below this video. I recently saw and reviewed a new Christmas horror anthology film called All the Creatures Were Stirring, so if you want something more modern than Terrorgram, then check out my review for that one. I hope you enjoyed this video review of Terrorgram, like, subscribe and all the usual stuff that we YouTubers keep nagging your viewers about, and I hope to see you again next time, here on Cinema Terror.